Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Zoning and Comprehensive Plan Amendment hearing for the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. Today is October 4th, and the time is 9:32 a.m. Let's begin this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. At this time, I'd like to ask our Department of Community Development staff to introduce the first case, which is a comprehensive plan amendment.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time today. For the record, Joe Saraceno from the Planning section discussing CPA 2022-00016. Sorry, CPA 2023-00001, a privately initiated small-scale amendment. This amendment there we go. This amendment is to change roughly 25 acres from urban community to central urban, as well as to amend Table 1B to maintain internal consistency with the Lee Plan. The amendments will allow the applicant to construct a multifamily development. I'm a little off here, sorry. The existing future land use map is on the left, and the proposed future land use map is on the right. The subject property is on the east side of US 41, and it's approximately a mile south of the intersection of US 41 and Alico Road. Sewer, water, solid waste, fire, EMS, police, and public transit and school capacity are available to serve the subject property, consistent with Objective 2.2. Consistent with Goal 5, this amendment promotes residential development in appropriate areas, subject properties outside of the coastal high hazard area or other areas that would impact residential development. It's also near employment and shopping centers, including the growing industrial corridor along Alico Road, as well as Gulf Coast Town Center. The proposed development would allow for a mix of housing types consistent with policies 135.1.9 and 160.1.3. The changes to Table 1B will accommodate the proposed development consistent with Policy 1.6.5. In conclusion, the surrounding area includes growing employment center for the county. The proposal will allow for the development of a diverse housing option in an infill area. Services are available to serve the subject property. The allowable uses in the proposed future land use category are consistent with the surrounding uses, and staff and the LPA both recommend that the board adopt the proposed amendments as provided in Attachment 1. Staff is available for any questions.
All right, Commissioners, do you have any questions for our staff at this time?
You know.
Okay, I see no questions. At this time, I'd like to ask the applicant to make their presentation.
Commissioners, we are going for this land use plan amendment to do a multifamily project. We're going to extend a reverse frontage road that we constructed with the shopping center on Constitution Boulevard through to Babcock Road to create better circulation. I have some commercial out parcels on the frontage. We needed this comp plan amendment to get the density to be the right density. We believe it's fairly straightforward, so I brought all of this information in case I need to use it. Mr. Quattrone is here for any engineering questions, but again, I believe it's fairly straightforward. We appreciate your approval.
Okay, Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time?
The item to be
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval from Commissioner Pendergrass and the seconds from Commissioner Ruane. We've heard from the applicant. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to public comment. This is a comprehensive plan amendment, so it is open to the general public to speak on this item. Do we have any speakers? Okay, I see no one raising their hand. I see no speakers, so we'll close public comment and back to the board. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have any discussion, Commissioners? Okay, I see no discussion. Are there any objections to the motion? I see no objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, let's please introduce the Penzance Square zoning case.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Beth Workman, Principal Planner with the Zoning Section. The next case before you today is DCI 2022 00050. It is called Penzance Square CPD. This project is located on Penzance and Bency Pratt, 6 Mile Cypress. It is a request to amend a commercial plan development to modify the master concept plan and schedule of uses to increase the allowable commercial square footage from 90,000 square feet to 185,000 square feet. So the project is in the central urban future land use category. It's currently zoned CPD. They're just amending a current CPD to add uses and increase the allowable square foot to add a public warehouse. The recommendation from the hearing examiner was approval. There were no deviations. It is subject to conditions, and there were 19 participants of record.
Very good. Commissioners, do you have any questions for our staff at this time? Okay. I see no questions at this time. Thank you very much for your introduction. At this time, I'd like to ask the applicant to make their presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jeff Wright with the Henderson Franklin Law Firm, an attorney on behalf of the applicant today. We have our team here today, and we agree with the hearing examiner's recommendation and analysis recommending approval. We also agree with staff on their recommendation of approval, and we're in agreement with all of the conditions of approval. We're here to answer any questions. You may hear from some of the residents. We've done our best to address all of their concerns, address their wish list. There's a couple things, including access, that you might hear about, but we're confident that that was adequately addressed by the hearing examiner's recommendation, and just want to make sure that we have a time to rebut in case we need to. But other than that, we respectfully request your approval.
Okay. And we do afford that time in our process here. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time?
If I could, Mr.
Commissioner
Wright, what kind of
Pendergrass?
conditions did you make changes for access? What were the improvements made?
Well, the concern was that they were pushing for access to be off of 6 Mile Cypress, and our project proposal is to have the access off of Penzance. So during the hearing examiner's hearing, there was testimony by staff, our expert, and I believe county staff, transportation staff, saying that the preferred option would be to have the access off of Penzance as we have proposed. So it is an issue that came up during the hearing, and we feel like this is the ideal configuration. Ultimately, it's a lowering of the traffic counts, even though the square footage is going up.
And that was probably DOT staff probably concurred with that, to have access off of Penzance other than 6 Mile because of accidents in the close proximity. I think it's less than 600 feet before the intersection.
Yes, and Jim Banks is here, our traffic engineer, and he can address this with more precision than I. But my understanding is that the preference is to have it off of the local road rather than the arterial.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any further questions, commissioners? Okay, seeing no further questions, then thank you. We'll see you after the public portion. Okay, since this is a zoning hearing, on zoning hearings, we call from the participants of record, the participants who were able to speak at the hearing examiner's hearing before. So I will go ahead and call those. They're listed in alphabetical order. When I call your name, just go ahead and come up to the podium here. You probably remember from the hearing, but we have like a green light, a yellow light, and a red light at the top of the podium. When the red light comes on, I'm going to go ahead and call the next speaker's name just to be fair to everybody, to make sure that everyone gets the same amount of time. And of course, just the rules of decorum, please no booing or hissing or clapping or anything that really would intimidate or encourage another speaker. Just kind of treat everybody the way you'd like to be treated. All right, so we'll call our first speaker. It's Haifa Amra. Good morning. And after her will be Lynn Ann Badoon. Badoon or Badoon? Good morning.
That my name starts with an A, so just let you know. Good morning. I reside at 7658 Cypress Walk Drive. I just wanted to say that my concerns with the development, as I already know it is what it's been zoned for, is it does not align and it's not compatible with the area of that portion of 6 Mile with the slough across the street, and then we're going to have a warehouse. I understand the amount of traffic supposedly won't change, but I'm concerned about the access times, and then also with the entrance being in Penzance, it's across the street from many of the homeowners, and that could add a lot of bit of traffic of in and out. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony this morning. Lynn Ann Badoon, followed by Katie Berkey. Is Lynn here then?
Good morning, thanks for the time. The biggest thing that I would like to point out is that the slough across the street from the neighborhood that I live in is the #2 tourist destination in the city of Fort Myers. We have people from all over the world that come to see this beautiful place. And to have this right across the street is not providing us the visual that I think preserves what you want to see when you come to visit such a tropical environment as the slough. I think that in addition to that, the amount of traffic that we're going to see on Penzance has been played down and is not accurate. I don't think that the distance from Penzance to 6 Mile is long enough. We're getting more and more traffic on Penzance as a result of other developments on Idlewild. So I'd like to have that taken into consideration when making this important decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Berkey, followed by Kathy Cox. Is Katie here? Okay, Katie does not appear to be here. How about Kathy Cox? Okay, Kathy doesn't appear to be here. How about Ed Desmond? Okay, and after Ed will be Terry Duratigliano. Are you Ed or Terry? I'm Terry. Okay, well, is Ed there? No. Oh, not Ed. Okay, all right. Well, then Ed's absent, and we'll do Terry.
I had distributed an exhibit at the hearing, and this is an exact copy of it, and I'd like to know if I could give it to the commissioners.
Okay, yep, go ahead. You may present. Yep, absolutely. Appreciate you asking first. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
One for the clerk and the applicant. You have one for the applicant.
And then just so that everybody knows, after Terry speaks will be Doreen Falcone.
Okay, again, good morning. For the record, my name is Terry DiRutigliano. I reside at 7638 Cypress Walk Drive in Fort Myers. I serve on the board of the Cypress Walk Neighborhood Association. However, I speak on my own behalf as an individual homeowner. And of note, my home is located just north of Penzance Boulevard within a 500-foot radius of the proposed rezoning. With the interest of time, my presentation today has been edited from my previous testimony to the hearing examiner and will focus on architectural design. Referring to Exhibit 1, is a rendering included in the original application and is also found on page 138 of the staff report. It's of Penzance Square as formerly approved by the Board of County Commissioners in 2007. While an artist's interpretation, it serves to illustrate the purpose and intent of Lee County's Article 4 Design Standards and Guidelines for Commercial Buildings and Developments. However, this rendering is misleading as it doesn't illustrate the revised master concept plan submitted by the applicant and hasn't any bearing on what the commissioners will be voting on today. On pages 2A and 2B of the exhibit are renderings illustrating the proposed master concept plan that were provided by the applicant upon request of the attorney representing Cypress Walk neighborhood at the June 29th hearing. These renderings are in stark contrast to the rendering on page 1, having an industrial look and appear to be originally designed for a different site, as the north, south, east, and west orientations are incorrectly stated when referring back to the master concept plan. From Article 4, Section 10600, under Purpose and Intent on page 3 of my exhibit, I quote, "Massive and/or generic developments that do not contribute to or integrate with the community in a positive manner can be detrimental to a community's image and sense of place." The renderings submitted by the applicant, as shown on page 2A and 2B, along with the architectural elevation shown on page 2C, have the appearance of both being massive and generic, without any nod to the existing developments along the scenic 6 Mile Cypress corridor, from Heritage Palms to Casa del Lago, Cypress Walk, further south to the Becker Office Complex, and on down to Portofino. Additionally, the Penzance Square site is located directly across from the entrance to the 6 Mile Cypress Slough, an environmentally sensitive scenic preserve which attracts thousands of visitors to Lee County every year. Exhibited on pages 4 and 5 are illustrations from Article 4, Section 10.620, with descriptions as to do this and not this. From all appearances, the applicant's renderings serve as an example of not this, without regard for design guidelines consistent with CPD zoning. Quoting now from Article 4, Section 10.620, Paragraph A, Purpose and Intent. The purpose and intent of these provisions is to maintain and complement the streetscape by requiring that buildings be designed with architectural features and patterns that provide visual interest consistent with the community's identity and local character while reducing the mass, scale, and uniform monolithic appearance of large unadorned walls. End of quote. Kindly and simply stated, the architectural appearance of the proposed Penzance Square is out of character with neighboring residential developments. In conclusion, as a necessary component for the compatibility of the proposed Penzance Square and the surrounding residential developments and nature preserve, the design standards and guidelines for commercial buildings and developments with CPD zoning must be comprehensively adhered to as a condition of approval. Thank you very much for your attention, and I yield to the next speaker.
Thank you. All right. Our next speaker is Doreen Falcone. Doreen, are you here? How about Nick Falcone? Okay, so Doreen and Nick are not here. Okay. And then our next speaker would be Mary Harrith. How about Mary? Are you here? Don't see Mary either. How about Ruth Klingenberger? Ruth? Okay, very good. After Ruth will be Perry Lynch.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ruth Klingenberger, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My husband Herman and I are year-round residents of Lee County, and our home is at 7560 Cypress Walk Drive, which is immediately north of the proposed development. I give testimony as to my concerns, and I have submitted previously at the HEX hearing a 5-page document and a color photo. And basically, after reading the summary of the hearing examiner, I still want to make a couple of points, one of which was already brought up, and that is traffic. The Idlewild Ranchette Penzance 6 Mile Cypress route is already being used as a cut-through to get between the residential developments. Addison Square is now being added to that traffic pattern, and I'm just concerned. The original MCP that was approved had a single ingress-egress into 6 Mile Cypress. Now, there's been some changes along the way, because that started back in I believe, 2007. In the HEX transcript, Lee County DOT had no objection to having access on 6 Mile, and that was page 129, lines 9 through 11. Staff and developer also had a single ingress-egress as adequate, and that was page 129, lines 13 to 17. Further noted on page 129, lines 20 to 23, the proposed left turn lane that'll be constructed on Penzance is required to meet the county standards. As I understand, a turn lane would be a county expense, and per HEX transcript, page 134, lines 8 through 22, neither the MPO or the CIP funds are available through 2045. As far as the other, I had 8 total comments that I had made in my original testimony. I just want to follow up on my concern from environmental, which was point 7. Following a conversation with Tim Hall of Turl Hall and Associates, I'm no longer concerned about the gopher tortoise habitat that would be impacted by the proposed construction area. No burrows had been identified, and he had mentioned that it hadn't made the report, but that he had not identified them on the proposed site and are not likely to be found in that area per the expert opinion. So those are my major concerns, but I live directly across from where they want to put in that ingress egress. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. Perry Lynch, is Perry here? Okay, I do not see Perry Lynch. Rose Metexon? Rose? Metexon? No? All right. And Stephen Mashad? Stephen, are you here? Stephen Mashad? David Minnick? Okay, good morning. And then Mary Jane Scullen will be after that.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is David Minnick, and I am here today as a member of the Board of the Friends of 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve. Our purpose of being the Friends of the Slough is to, quote, preserve, protect, and promote the slough, a real treasure in the Lee County parks and recreation system. And I want to focus my comments today on the invaluable role of the slough as a preserve in Lee County, and been in conversation with all of you over the years about that, and I appreciate your support to date, and the possible risk to the slough by this proposed development. Every morning, thousands, and beginning about an hour before sunset, thousands of birds come in and out of the slough, spending their nights at the rookery, which lines one side of Gator Lake. Birds seek out the slough because it is dark, quiet, and safe at night. So one concern we have about the proposed development is the potential impact of additional lighting along the 6 Mile Cypress Parkway. To date, we are grateful for the efforts made to limit lighting along that corridor. Those efforts we believe we've found a good balance of lighting for public safety and for protecting the integrity of the slough. There are numerous well-documented and well-researched studies on the impact of unnatural light and noise on biodiversity. So our concern is not just the impact on birds that find their homes in the preserve, but the entire ecosystem, stretching from insects to reptiles, all of which have a critical role in the preserve. Another matter related to our concern about lighting has to do with the possibility of a 45-foot warehouse facing 6 Mile Parkway and the slough. It's our understanding that up to 10% of that of the wall facing the slough can be used for signage and will be lit. And we're trying to sort out the impact that this might have on the slough proper. Another concern is, will the landscaping along the 6 Mile Parkway, as well as along Penzance Drive, be sufficient to create a visual barrier to those traveling along these busy roads? As a stop along the great Florida birding trail, the slough is open dawn to dusk, so that visitors can come at the best time to see and enjoy the diversity that we are known for. And we do get a good number of visitors as early as 6:30 in the morning in June and as late as 8:30 at night in June. So the times that this new proposed would be open might impact the natural migration of birds. So we are eager to know the precise times of operating hours for the proposed development. We at the slough have a respectful rivalry with our friends at the Edison Ford Estates as to who will be listed number one on TripAdvisor's Things to See and Do in Fort Myers. We eagerly welcomed over 282,000 visitors in 2022 to the slough to see the beauty of the preserve, to learn the impact of the slough on water quality and movement in Lee County, and enjoy our boardwalk, butterfly garden, and interpretive center. Please note that 282,000 visitors came in a year when we were only open for 11 months because of Hurricane Ian. Our volunteers work hard and faithfully to protect, promote, and preserve this special park in our community. I encourage you to read the comments on the TripAdvisor website to learn of how favorably impressed so many of our guests are. And if you are on Facebook, follow us there, where some of the 2,500 members post pictures daily of the wonders they see at the slough. With that in mind, our concern is visitors leaving the beauty of the slough, our boardwalk buildings and grounds, coming onto the well-cared-for 6 Mile Parkway and seeing a series of buildings dwarfed by a 3-story warehouse as they exit. I hope these concerns raised here by me and by our neighbors will be considered as this process moves ahead. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mary Jane Scullin, followed by Jeannie Struve.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Jane Scullin. I live at 11748 Ibis Walk Lane in Cypress Walk. I am not going to talk to all of the points that I raised at the HEX meeting except for one. The main request that the residents of Cypress Walk had at the HEX meeting was that there be not a movement of the ingress and egress, but that a second ingress and egress be allowed on 6 Mile Cypress. The staff pointed out at that meeting that the Florida Department of Transportation has already accommodated that on their master plan. And had this developer bought the parcel in the front, which is the little triangle in the front, it would have taken his development to over 10 acres, which would have required him to have a second ingress and egress. He claims that he tried to buy that, and I don't disagree. I assume that since he did have the attempt to buy that his plans included a second ingress and egress on 6 Mile Cypress. That was our main concern, largely because of the amount of traffic we're seeing on Penzance, which is now going to be increased because the apartments that have been approved have now been approved for additional apartments, and there is now another request on the table for further down on Penzance for more development. Again, I just wanted to clarify that was our request, not that it be moved, but that a second ingress and egress be allowed on 6 Mile Cypress, which again is accommodated for in the Florida Department of Transportation plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, how about Jean or Jeannie Struve? Okay. How about Mike Struve or Struve? Okay. How about Karen Suzor? Karen Suzor? Okay. And how about Mitch Weiner? Mitch, are you here? I don't see Mitch either. All right, that concludes the list of participants who testified at the hearing below. So we'll come back to the applicant and offer them a chance to address the concerns that were raised by the public.
Thank you again. I'm Jeff Wright for the applicant. And the good thing about this process is all of these concerns were presented to the hearing examiner, and they were addressed and many of them incorporated into the conditions of approval. Just for example, the hours of operation is a condition of approval, limiting the hours of operation. No amplified sound, that's another condition that was a result of this iterative process with the neighbors. Another concern was 6 Mile Cypress impacts and perhaps the school nearby. We also adopted a condition that there would be no doors facing 6 Mile Cypress. We've offered enhanced buffering, extra open space, and as I said at the beginning, the proposal overall reduces the overall traffic count significantly. Now getting to the specific comments, I just wanted to point out that the architecture, there was a handout given to all of you. This proposal before you, this application, does not include any architecture. We're not proposing a specific architecture. I believe that that handout that you saw is related to our effort to work with them, and it was given to them as something that was approved or considered previously, but it's not what we're proposing. There's no architecture on the table. So what we will end up building is a code-compliant facility that meets all of the architectural design standards. So to the extent there's a concern about that rendering, that's not the rendering, that's not really a consideration of this application, and when we do go to construction, the project will be compliant with design standards. So I just wanted to clarify that, because it was, at the hearing examiner, it was a little bit confusing to look at that rendering and wonder, what is this thing? But it's not something that we're proposing. It's not going to go there. We're going to have a code-compliant design standards for our architecture. As far as the slough and the plantings, there is a condition of approval with an exhibit with the slough planting list. So we do plan to abide by all the requirements of being in that area, and we don't think that this project has any impacts on the slough itself. In fact, we agree it's a treasure, and we don't want to have any adverse impacts on that. So this whole process has been, I would say, inordinately working with this community to try to make sure we address the things that they're concerned about: the enhanced buffering, the extra open space, the limit on lighting. Like I said, there's conditions on lighting, the elimination of sound, and the hours of operation being curtailed. We try to address all of their concern. Now, this proposal about access is one of those things that we work with staff and we work with our transportation consultant. And what's, just to summarize, the hearing examiner's recommendation has a summary at the front. And it says that, and addresses the specific concern about traffic. Proposed site design streamlines project traffic by eliminating access to 6 Mile Cypress and reducing access to Penzance Boulevard to a single driveway. As a single access to Penzance Boulevard is appropriate given, number one, the significant reduction in project traffic volumes, number two, security concerns associated with storage uses, and number three, the LDC preference to direct traffic away from controlled access facilities to preserve safety and traffic capacity. So like I said, the hearing examiner did consider and address all of the concerns that you've heard today, and we agree with that recommendation and, again, respectfully request your approval.
Very good. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Sandelli?
There was a comment made about buying that parcel out front. Was there an attempt to buy that piece, that triangle, please?
There may have been a discussion, and we do have the applicant representative today that would have been privy to those if there were any discussions. It hasn't really been a central piece of our project, but I'm happy to maybe provide some additional.
The comment was made, I was just trying to verify that was an attempt to do that or not, that's all.
I think that there was an attempt, but considering what was already there, it wasn't something that was efficient and
That's fine.
Realistic.
Okay.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
Do you have any idea what that parcel will be used for? Or maybe staff can tell us what that's currently zoned for now, that corner parcel now?
PS2.
So is that going to be,
It's zoned commercial right now. It's CS2 on the master concept plan. We show what the zoning classifications are off-site. So it would need to meet setbacks for commercial unless it came in to be rezoned to PD to get relief from deviations.
Big
It's a
enough
triangular piece.
would it be big enough for somebody to try to put a gas station or a car wash there or something like they usually do on a corner of a commercial road like that?
It would not be able to meet the requirements of a gas station or car wash for 25-foot wide buffers. They would have to come in and do a plan development at that point.
So, okay, thank you.
Any further questions, commissioners, on this? All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Very good. So at this time, we'll come back to the board. Commissioners, does anybody wish to make a motion, or is there discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the hearing examiner's recommendation from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have a second?
I'll second. I want to have some discussion.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. And Commissioner Pendergrass, you're recognized for discussion.
Thank you all for being here this morning. It's been obviously a long process. I understand we heard the residents' concerns this morning, and I'm glad Terry brought this forward because this shows back in 2007. I remember that, I wasn't here then, but I remember that time period here in Lee County, and actually your property is now Cypress Walk. I think that was actually going to be a two-story apartment. They were trying to put a two-story complex in there around 2005 or 6. So luckily they built your community, those communities built yours. But if you have a parcel property on a prime piece of road like this, like 6 Mile Cypress, you're going to see development. And we're just trying to make sure we get it right. Unfortunately, we do not restrict development and have like a HOA governance of dictating architecture of the buildings. We, like the attorney said, we have code compliance, and they'll be following code to build that. So we don't tell people through zoning what the building should look like, the color of the building, what it should do. So we don't have that authority to do that. Our authority here, based upon the zoning, is just basically the use of the property for that commercial based upon the county codes. So that's what we're doing here today. So we don't have the authority to tell them which color to paint the building or how it looks. So we have county codes for that. So thank you.
Commissioner Sandelli.
I'm very familiar with this area. Actually drove it last week, probably within a 2-mile area through all the streets and stuff like this. So the reason I asked for that piece was I do think that coming out on 6 Mile Cypress poses some challenges. That's why I was curious about that one piece, what that potentially could be. But the way it stands right now, I'd be fine with it.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, I see no further discussion or questions. We have a motion on the floor in a second. Do we have any objections to that motion? Okay, I see no objections then. That motion carries unanimously, and there's no further business before us, so we're adjourned. Thank you.